first one to run it at your property. You wanna back this thing off, you're more than welcome to.
So last year after we bought this new place, there were many comments that said, Ryan, this is going to be the perfect spot for a Ventrac. And Ventrac was actually watching. They have been for a few years, but it's probably not that likely that I'm going to put a 72-inch mower deck on my current property back home. Although I probably could, it didn't seem like as much of a fit. So last fall, I actually had the opportunity to go to the Ventrac factory in Ohio. So what I loved about my visit with Ventrac is, one, I'm a Midwest person through and through, and most of you know that. Not that I don't love other parts of the country, but I always love coming back home to the Midwest. And Ventrac had that same Midwest family type vibe when I visited with them. And that's exactly the people that I love to support. With that family type vibe comes many people working there for years and years and staying with the company. And that's a lot of knowledge and experience that goes along with it, and they really know their product inside and out. So I'm so excited to get started with this. There's going to be more and more uses for this as we go forward. But today, let's get to some seating. So I do have the dual wheel kit for this, but it just fits better right now without the duals on in the shipping container. I will put those on when I need to get onto some higher slopes, but for now, there's these little caps going here just to make sure you don't get any debris inside of there. So I got my lineup of attachments over here, and this is another reason why I cannot wait to get our building started and have some extra storage space finally, to place to put things, and some other stuff can go in the shipping container, and everything can eventually go out of the elements and not have to be tarped up like this. But for now, it works. So I'm gonna get the power rake put onto here, and then we'll get to work. So back here in this section, they created a little bit of a ditch when we actually did our driveway, and the reason for that was to get the water flowing down that big hill and to get it going out into, there's a small drainage that goes right underneath that bridge. What I need to do today is level this out enough to put some seed into it. I know that we have more construction that's going to happen. I know it's going to get torn up at some point, but I need to get something started here so I don't end up with just a whole bunch of weeds. And I think I can salvage some of the grass even with the construction. We'll see what happens. But so let's get to work with the power rake and see how it does. So I have some fine tuning to do, but that does a fantastic job. Quick work to get that done. Not really a till, but just to get that top layer smoothed out and to make it ready for the seed bed again. It's just not even fair how much fun that is, honestly. And it's bad for perfectionist people like me because you just keep staring at all the tiny little details and you go back and fix a few things and then you see another spot and you go back and fix another thing, but it's a lot of fun. So the other thing that I'm going to do today is put in a new plot. I'm going to put in something that I never wanted to seed, but I need to do it because it's the gold standard, I guess you would call it, for tall fescue in terms of one of the oldest varieties, and everybody talks about, you need to plant some Kentucky 31 here. So I did want to do that to show it next to some of the other fescues. But the other thing was that this is where the blankets were at last year. Kelsey and I are going to try to remove some of these to see what it looks like underneath there. obviously the grass has grown in and you don't need to hold that down anymore. I think these are supposed to be biodegradable, but you can see some of these fibers left over. It looks like it is starting to get there to where it is breaking down, but if we can get these out of here and remove them, I think it's a better situation now. The grass is in, they don't need to be here. So one of the things that we were discussing as well is, do you pull these out of there maybe 2-3 weeks after germination? And I did that on a few of these plots. So over here last year, I let those come up and then I took them out right away, just so they weren't in the way. I could mow and just do everything. But this was something that I seeded really late. I just left it here. And the question becomes, you know, when to pull those out of there or not do it at all. And I did like that over there because it got rid of it, but at the same time the roots aren't very established in the grass, so you did end up pulling up some of the grass. As you can see from the plots, it doesn't look like it did any sort of major damage. But here, Kelsey was saying that as you pull these out of here, I mean, the roots are very well established now, and they're not pulling the grass out at all.
It feels like it's going to, but it doesn't pull. I mean, you don't see much for grass coming up.
But it is difficult to get out of there.
Yeah, it's not a walk in the park. This is another example where it doesn't look like it's breaking down, but some of these feel like they maybe are starting to degrade. I just worry that you're going to get those caught in your mower blade and it'll be all tied up.
So I've learned a few things since I planted the last plots, and I think number one was there's really no reason to go wider than one of those blankets. And originally I wasn't going to use those blankets, so I didn't really know that at the time, but now that I am, I think it's smarter to just do the 7 feet wide, which is the width of the blanket. And then I'm gonna go 30 feet long, so same length as the other plots. It will just be slightly less width on it. This is gonna be right up against the improved turf type tall fescue, so this is elite variety stuff over here. You'll have the K31 right next to that, so we can compare the two side by side. So that went pretty well. I didn't really want to dig into the soil too much and make it too loose. I wanted it to be fairly even with those other plots in terms of the depth. But there's a lot of weeds starting over here already, and in order to get those dug up, I had to go slightly deeper into the soil. But as soon as we put the blanket down, I don't think it's going to be a problem. Just that I need to roll in that seed for sure to make it so that soil has some sort of structure to it again after I dug that up. So you may have seen some weeds in the plot, and ideally I would have sprayed that out and made sure it's all clean, but that's why I had to dig up some of it. Just because right now I don't have my sprayer out here and I want to get this planted and get it started hopefully in the next few weeks. But I really don't think it's going to matter in terms of weeds, and the reason that I say that is because if you look at this tag right here, it says that we have noxious weed seeds 9 pounds. Would you ever want to really buy a seed like this and put it into your yard? Probably not, honestly. That's why it's important to look at these seed tags and why it's important to buy the best seed possible. But what I wanted to give you was a real life example. You just go to the store, you say, okay, it's Kentucky 31, I'm just going to get that. And I wanted to give you that real world example as if you had just done the exact same thing, and we'll see what comes up. All right, so bare ground seeding on fescue should be 8 to 10 pounds per thousand. So if you wanted to do this to where you measure it out per 1,000 square feet, you would just have to measure 8 to 10 pounds, put that in your spreader, and start with a low setting, spread that out evenly over that 1,000 square feet, and that way you know you have exactly 8 to 10 pounds on a certain area. I forgot that these coated seeds do not go through this thing. So I remembered with this drop spreader that this is a coated seed, and for some reason the mechanism that's in there does not like to deal with coated seed. It just does not want to turn. Alright, so I don't really like broadcasting on a plot because the whole point of the drop is to put a straight line in here, but I have the line along the edge fairly set. So I'm going to try one of these and see if I can get the rest of it. Now I'm just going to take my roller across here, push the seed into the soil, and especially since I just tilled this a couple inches down, it's fairly loose, and I want to make sure that I set it back in place and the seed has good seed to soil contact. So I'm going to seed this section as well. This was part of the driveway that they tapered off into what was fescue over here. So I'm going to put some more fescue in this section. And this is not coated seed, so it should go better. There's more work to be done on the driveway. There's some utilities that have to come up through that section. So I'm going to try to keep this in line, drop just fescue right out here, fairly close to where the other fescue stops, and just keep the seed there, and this we'll just have to do in the fall time or whenever those things are done. So we reused a couple of these blankets. There's not a lot of straw left in them, but at least it's something on the worst part of the slope for this section, and we'll just see how it comes in. So I got an alert on my phone just a few minutes ago that said there's severe weather expected tomorrow night and possibly heavy rain. So instead of trying to seed this and getting blankets down on it and everything, I'm just going to wait on this front section. We'll see what happens after the rain if I need to fix anything, but that shouldn't be too hard. But that will be coming up later on. So I want to thank you so much for watching today. We'll see you next time.